The king and queen of value, Peter and Akira Sargison, are at it again. We don't have many brands here in Australia and even fewer that can match the big boys from around the world. I know the team travels to their suppliers regularly to ensure that everything is to spec and the attention to quality is high. If you're interested in learning more about Peter and team, check out my interview with him linked here. I've reviewed almost every release and I have some favorites for sure. If I'm honest, the Sattelberg version 1 I quite liked but never fell in love with, which is obviously the main reason why we now have a new version, because Peter is very conscious of my feelings and bases all his decisions on what I think. In the real world where I sadly live, Peter does not care one bit what I think, but the brand does very much care about their customers, and some of their feedback is what has led to the new version of the Sattelberg we see here today. Let's stop for a second here and consider what it would be like to create something you love, only for reviewers such as me to give their opinions about it and have everything you sweat over scrutinized. You need some thick skin for sure. On the flip side, if the reviewer is too complimentary, then the audience tend to tune out and suspect paid for content. All I can say today is that I've borrowed this and there's no money or goods changing hands here, so whilst I respect and like the family behind the brand, you'll get my honest opinions today. So let's dig in. For once, I think we should get price out of the way quickly. This is on offer for $570 or 850 Australian dollars. Keep that in mind as we go through the specs today. Sizes are basically perfection for my wrist anyway. We get a diameter of 40mm and 47mm lug to lug. Lug width is 20mm and it's 10.5mm thick. On bracelet, it's 140 grams sized up for me and water resistance is 100 meters. It wears incredibly well on this excellent bracelet. So far so good then. I had the black with me today, which can appear dark blue at times. It's certainly a bluish black. The biggest change you'll notice anyway is the dial update. I'll link up my original video if you're keen to see what those changes are, but to save you some time, the addition of a sunburst section in the middle is brand new, and it's almost a bit opal-like if you're familiar with the precious Australian stone. A white rehort with the minute markers is also new, and generally clearer distinction of the Arabics around the dial is also a slight change. Starting at just under the 12, we have the second hour logo, and just above the 6, the model name and automatic. A slightly unusual treatment of the date is having it sit at just above the 6, which I think works most of the time, but with some of the more cramped dates that we get with Miyota movements, it can look a tad disproportionate at times, particularly with the double-digit numbers. I like the clear, large Arabics that appears to be made from blocks of loom, and in classic second hour style, there's a triangle through red markers at the 12, 4 and 8 indices. Speaking of triangles, I do want to highlight the 12 markers sitting absolutely dead center in a red triangle base. This combo of marker and indice is precise, and this is quite rare in my experience, and most definitely in this price range. The case is unchanged, to my eyes anyway, and the unprotected crown also. There are some nice tricks in use to make it look even thinner than it is, which is always appreciated. And we have the same inscription on the back that references a hard-fought campaign in Papua New Guinea by Australians and New Guinean servicemen. Behind this beats the excellent Miyota 9015 with its 42-hour power reserve. The flat sapphire crystal with 6 layers of internal AR coating is incredibly effective at cutting reflections. But the biggest wow factor is the 1200 Vickers surface hardening in use, meaning this is a watch that can take a beating and come out looking pristine, which also extends amazingly to this bracelet. This is an expensive process, and it amazes me that it's not standard across many more expensive brands, since who really wants to have scratches if they can be avoided? I don't mind a few battle scars, but if I can help it, I would like to delay them as long as possible. What really does wonders for the Mark II is this new bracelet. The 7-link bracelet with push-button micro-adjustment clasp is again all surface hardened to 1200 Vickers. It's easy to adjust yourself with screw pins all around, and the combo of brushed and polished links is not an issue here thanks to the hardening. The push button adjustment is becoming common on micro brands, but trust me, it doesn't always operate as smoothly as this one, so there is once again some extra attention given to this, I suspect. And since there is a direct reference on the website to the famous philosophers/vocalists of Salt and Pepper in Push It Real Good, I think it's quite intentional. The sign clasp is attractive, and if you really want to take this bracelet off, quick release spring bars will help with that. So what does it look like on some other straps if you don't buy the ones on offer from Second Hour? Well, let's have a look. The loom is, as per usual from the brand, quite excellent. So is the Sattelberg Mark II for you? I'd love to hear from you in the comments today. I think the slight changes are quite nice, but having a beautiful fitted bracelet really makes it stand out that little bit extra. Also, knowing that the whole package will look pristine for years to come is certainly a massive bonus. I think the design lends itself quite well to future modifications too. The classic field watch aesthetic is a classic, and you can do quite a bit with it, much like the fun ripple versions of the Jing Clear, which is worth a look. Is there perhaps also a bit of an exotic vibe buying from Australia, much like what you get when you buy a Draken from New Zealand? I'm not sure. I know it would have been an attraction to me if I was back in Europe and still dreaming about visiting or returning to these beautiful countries. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you next time.